Grab your favorite mug and fill it up with your favorite blend because we're getting ready to sit down and talk about Southwest Florida real estate. Cottrell Title and Escrow presents The Closing Experience, real estate talk over a cup of coffee. What are my closing fees going to be? Should I rent or should I finally purchase? Why do I have to send all of these documents to get a mortgage? The real estate process doesn't have to be frustrating. Let our experts at Cottrell Title and Escrow help make buying or selling real estate a dream. Here to answer all of your questions, our host, managing partner of Cottrell Title and Escrow, James Schlimmer.
Good morning, Southwest Florida. Welcome back to The Closing Experience, real estate talk over a cup of coffee. I'm your host, James Schlimmer of Cottrell Title and Escrow. Is there anything better than sunrise in Southwest Florida? It's a beautiful morning. Very, very, very happy to be with you again this week to talk all things real estate. The show is the feedback, at least we're getting from whether questions regarding real estate related questions, obviously, to the closing experience at fltitlegroup.com, or folks are dialing into 239-431-8200 have been excellent. We've got an amazing show lined up for you today. We're going to talk all things. Governor Scott just released some tourism numbers. We're going to discuss that. The Naples Area Board of Realtors released their February numbers, which show some amazing things if you are listening to us in the high-rise condos over $1 million. Good news for you guys. As well as we have two guests I was able to get on the show for this week coming up later on in the show. But number one is our tax professional, BJ Cottrell of Cottrell Tax and Accounting, talking to us a little bit simple question about capital gains. But we were also able to sit down and spend some time with an amazing agent who's doing some incredible things in Southwest Florida as well as Texas. What's really kind of cool is that she has been featured on HGTV's House Hunters, and we had a chance to sit down with Heather Caine from Caine Premier Properties. So make sure you listen in because she's got some great insight on, one, how it works behind the scenes with HGTV, but also, two, what her and her team provide to folks that are looking to sell their homes here in Southwest Florida. As we get into this week's show, I always like to let everybody know what kind of coffee I'm drinking today. And one of the wonderful things about getting married, as I head out in the morning, my wife brews this nice coffee that we have. It's not a Hawaiian blend. The Hawaiian blend was last week, so I don't know what it is, but I think she puts cinnamon in the grounds, and it's really appreciated because it's wonderful. I don't know what you guys are actually drinking today, but I hope you're off to a great start for your weekend, and you're ready to talk all things real estate on the closing experience. So let's get right into it here. Governor Scott just came out a couple days ago and released the tourism numbers. We set a record, which is always exciting to hear. And this is kind of the question too, because everybody says, hey, the roads are just incredibly packed in Southwest Florida. The traffic is worse than it's ever been. Hey, the data supports it. We're looking at 116 million tourists came through Florida, which is a 3.6% increase from 2016. And these are the 2017 numbers now. So in 2017, it was about 112. So we saw 116 million, which now you got to keep in mind, these increases we're seeing in tourism, despite the fact of Hurricane Irma. Collier took a slight hit, obviously, in September. Overall, the state of Florida saw an increase in tourism, and Governor Scott attributes that to the Florida marketing campaign that obviously we don't see when we live here because they don't market to us because we're here, but apparently all across the country, all across the world for that matter, Visit Florida is marketing to get folks to come here and visit us. Let's talk about Collier County numbers. 1.77 million visitors stayed in hotels and vacation rentals. More than $2 billion worth of revenue in Collier County on 2017. Lee County saw 4.8 million visitors in 2017 with about $3.1 billion in spending. Fascinating numbers when you really look at it. Obviously, common sense. We live down here. We know Florida thrives off tourism. Clearly, when you talk real estate, the real estate market fluctuates based on season. And right now it is season, so it's frantic out there, and closing companies like Cottrell Title and Escrow are busier than ever. Real estate agents are busier than ever. Lenders are busier than ever. Home inspectors are busier than ever, and a lot of this plays into these numbers as well. What I found to be interesting was of the 116 million, 102 million came from other parts of the United States. About 10.7 million came from overseas, so that's where you get your England, your Germany, and everywhere else overseas. And about 3.5 million came from Canada. The Canadian real estate market has always been very strong in Southwest Florida. It's good to share those numbers with you guys. And if heading to NaplesDailyNews.com, Laura Layton, who's excellent, wrote an amazing article on it. So take a look at it and see where it goes from there. It's interesting because driving around, it seems like in March of 2018, In the 25 plus years that I've lived in Southwest Florida, at least on the Naples roads, it's never been this busy. I mean, it's incredibly packed right now. And one of the things in this article that I was able to pull out, Jack Wirt, Collier County's tourism director, February statistics won't be released until Monday, but in January, visitation rose nearly 2.2% from a year ago. So in Collier County, and this is based on Tampa-based Research Data Services, they're able to show that in Collier County in January, it was busier in January 18 compared to 17. And 17, clearly we just reported, had record numbers overall in the state of Florida. So the fact that some of the locals here in Southwest Florida are scratching their heads saying, man, it really feels like there are a lot more people on the roads this year, 2018, than ever before. Some of the data is supporting that. We love when people come to visit here because that's when they're buying real estate, it's when they're selling real estate, that's when they're pumping money into the market. And that money getting spent into Collier County, again, is over $2 billion a year. And in Lee County, that's $3.1 billion a year. So we are grateful. Other interesting numbers were released. If you are in Naples and you own a condo that is over $1 million, you should be very happy. Naples Area Board of Realtors released their numbers for February. It showed a 60% increase in condominiums that are over $1 million, so in sales. There was talk for years, actually, that the luxury market was stalled. This is a great sign for those folks saying that, hey, now seems like the time. There's actually a quote here from CEO of John R. Wood, Phil Wood. The 12-month rolling numbers are remarkable for properties above $1 million, especially in the condominium market. The data shows a 60% increase in closed sales over the last 12 months. That's good news. That's great news. So if you're thinking about, hey, you know what, now's the time that you want to sell your condo, or hey, just the fact that you know that the price is appreciating and those things are moving are always excellent to know. Condominiums under $300,000 in Naples, Florida are a little bit stalled. Condos $300,000 or less had the highest increase reported among all price categories and home types, with a 6% increase in inventory. So what that means is when they look at February 2016, the inventory of condominiums that are priced at $300,000 and below has increased 6% in 2018. So there's more of those condos available, which means supply and demand. If there's more, you're going to have to get creative with how you're going to sell it. You're going to have to get creative with, make sure you get a great real estate agent, a fantastic real estate agent, hopefully get those things sold. If you have a condo, which I do, if you have a condo that's $300,000 or less, how are you going to get that thing sold? You may be able to head on over to fltitlegroup.com. You can actually listen to some of our pre-recorded shows where we talk about, hey, why you should hire a fantastic real estate agent, okay? You could do for sale by owner, but it's hard. How are you going to know to price the condo the correct way? How do you know that you're actually going to market it the right way? How are you going to know you're going to stage it inside the home the correct way? I can tell you from experience that, one, I have a condo. I just got married. I've mentioned it before. I have a condo that's under $300,000 in Naples. There are a significant number of condos in that price point available. And me being in the industry said, you know what? I think I'm going to try to do this myself. Why not? Save the 3%, offer 3% to a buyer's agent, and it'll be fine, right? And I'm in the industry, and I said, all right, well, let me try to do this. Number one, I don't have the time to market this property the way that it needs to because, hey, I've had it on. The average days on the market in Collier County looks to be, at least for February, was 96 days on the market, which is down 3%. But either way, call that 90 days. That means you want to sell your property in Collier County, right? From the day that listing goes, it's probably going to be 90 days before it closes, okay? And that's 90 days with somebody out there aggressively trying to move this property for you. Right? So in my situation, I thought, hey, let me just throw it up on the MLS and see what happens because, hey, under $300,000, it's going to work in Collier County. There's not that much, right? The problem is everybody has that idea. And that's one of the benefits of working with a fantastic real estate agent. So I pulled the trigger on a fantastic real estate agent, and I will give her a plug, April Keating with MVP Realty. I said, hey, April, I need you to do this for me. I don't have the time to put into this. I don't have the time for the showings. I don't have the time to, continually monitor who's looking at this on the MLS and follow up on phone calls. You have to be, it's a full-time job to sell a property and to do it the right way. And then on top of that, you have someone like April Keating will come in, or another fantastic real estate agent. She walks through the condo. She gave me a list of about 25 things that says, hey, this is what buyers are asking for today. This is what they're noticing today. This is the way they feel when they open up that door today. And I'm looking at it, and I was like, geez, I'm doing this show on Fox News where I'm saying, hey, that there is benefit in a fantastic real estate agent. And here's the proof. The proof was in the pudding with April Keating. So I will be happy to give her a shout out. And interesting how the numbers hold true, where right now, if you have condos that are under $300,000 in Naples, the inventory is up. So you're going to have to do things to be able to differentiate your unit to get it sold. And I would think one of the great ways, take my advice, is interview and hire a fantastic real estate agent, and you'll be happy that you did. As we move into the break, I want to let you guys know that in the next segment here, we're going to sit down with BJ Cottrell, who of Cottrell Tax and Accounting, and we are going to talk capital gains. We've had a number of questions to the closing experience at fltitlegroup.com, as well as 239-431-8200, asking about how does capital gains work? I know if I sell the property, I have a profit. How much do these taxes are, and what do I do? So I was able to grab BJ Cottrell in the hallways and get him to be able to sit down and talk to us, which we're looking forward to. Also, if you are a seller in Lee County, or you're a buyer in Collier County, you can choose to close with Cottrell. Here's what you do. You tell your real estate agent, I want to close with Cottrell. I want to give these guys a chance. If in Lee County, for instance, if you're a seller, you're probably wondering, how much money am I going to walk away with if I sell my property at X price? Head over to fltitlegroup.com, click on the closing costs tab, register, it's free, and then you can actually plug in all the numbers, see what the closing costs are. You may have questions on how do the tax prorations work, or what about my prepaid association dues, or what is documentary stamp tax on the deed, and why do I have to pay that? Call 239-431-8200, and we will make sure we explain it to you. If you are a buyer in Collier County, you're probably wondering, how much money do I need to be able to get this condo that's over $1 million or under $300,000? Head over to fltitlegroup.com, click on the closing costs tab, register, and then you can actually see, plug in all the lender fees and get an idea. I would imagine you're going to have questions. Feel free to call us at 239-431-8200. Coming up after the break, again, I'm going to sit down with Cottrell Tax and Accounting's BJ Cottrell, and we're going to talk capital gains, so stay tuned.
Are you getting ready to buy or sell real estate and have questions about the process? Or do you just simply want to know what the costs are going to be? Join us here Saturday mornings at 7:30 as Cottrell Title and Escrow presents The Closing Experience, real estate talk over a cup of coffee, a weekly show dedicated to talking Southwest Florida real estate. Can't wait until Saturday? Call Cottrell Title and Escrow now at 239-431-8200 or visit fltitlegroup.com.
Welcome back to The Closing Experience, real estate talk over a cup of coffee. I'm your host, James Schlimmer with Cottrell Title and Escrow. As I mentioned as we went into the break, one of the top questions that we're getting every single week, multiple times, either emails to The Closing Experience at fltitlegroup.com or the phone, which is 239-431-8200. Inevitably, all the questions are about taxes. And the number one question when it comes to taxes is capital gains. And it's like, well, how do I figure out what the capital gains are? Or do the new tax laws change what my capital gains are? Or I feel like I'm getting taxed everywhere. What do I do? And you've probably heard that one of the sponsors on the show is a sister company that we work with is Cottrell Tax and Accounting. And I'm sitting down right now with the principal partner of Cottrell Tax and Accounting, Mr. BJ Cottrell. And here he is. Say hi, BJ.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today?
They can't respond back to you, but I'm sure they're doing well because you know why? They're having some coffee.
That's good. We have our coffee here as well.
Old Western coffee is what we're having here this morning. What I wanted to do is get BJ in between meetings and just very quickly sit down and try to do the tax corner. We're going to have him on a future show where we'll be able to go over in depth all different tax subjects, whether you're how do you work on rental income or if you're a foreign seller. But the question has come up often enough where capital gains is involved, where BJ, I wanted to grab you and see if we can get you on. And let me just ask you, capital gains. I'm selling a house. How do I know how much the government's going to take? How does capital gains work?
Sure. So the first thing we really have to get into when we talk about capital gains is whether it's short-term or if it's long-term capital gains. So really what that comes down to in a nutshell is if it's under 1 year, if you've owned the property for 1 year or less, you're subject to short-term capital gains. And what that means is that it's basically the same as having normal, ordinary income. So whatever tax bracket you're in, whether you are married and have children, if you're single, if you make a lot of money or little money, that's kind of what tax bracket you're in. So if you sell a property under a year, for the most part, that means that income is going to be taxed at the same as all your other income. What's really nice, though, is the government's given us the ability to, over 1 year, we get special tax rates. So we're able to actually get a different rate than what our normal ordinary income is. And just to give you kind of some basic numbers, just so you kind of know where about that is. For a married filing joint couple, if they make under $77,000, then any money with the capital gains up to that $77,000 is taxed at 0% actually. Then, if we go over that amount, $77,000 to $479,000, then it's at 15%. Now, that's most of America, right? Most of America makes a little bit of money between their dual income, but they don't make over $400,000. So for most Americans, if they have a piece of property and they sell it, it's actually subject to long-term capital gains of 15%. Anything over $479,000, married, filing, joint, you get into a 20% bracket, but that's where it stops.
Okay, so to make it simple, if you own the property for longer than a year and you go to sell it, chances are you're going to be taxed capital gains long-term at 15%?
15% for most Americans.
Okay. Now, where do you get into the fact that, wait a minute, this is my primary residence and I'm married and I know that there's an exemption? How does that work?
Absolutely. So the IRS actually came out with a law that allows people who have their primary home, that they're selling their primary residence, to be able to not have to pay that tax when they move or they upgrade from one house to the next. So what they've done is they've given an exemption, okay? So basically any person who lives in their primary residence for more than 2 years, or really it's the 2 of the last 5 years. If they are there 2 of the last 5 years, they get an exemption on the gain of that property of $250,000 per person. So that means that if I bought a house for $200,000 and I sold it for $300,000, my gain, being using some really rough math, would be somewhere around $100,000. I get an exemption of $250,000, and if I'm married, me and my wife together get a deduction of up to $500,000 of capital gain.
This is great. And I love the fact that I'm able to grab BJ Cottrell in the hall and get him in here. And that's one of the advantages of Cottrell Title and Escrow, is that we do have a sister company with a CPA firm. So if you're dealing with foreign sellers, or if you're just a seller, a buyer, you're getting ready to sell and you're wondering, hey, what is my tax liability going to look like? How do I structure this deal? You want to dial 239-431-8200, and we're going to be able to sit down, have a free consultation with BJ if you need, to be able to understand your situation so the deal can be structured the way to benefit your situation. Now, before BJ leaves, I feel like we can go a million directions and we could probably sit down here for multiple hours. What is when they say, hey, what is your true basis? I hear that a lot. And they say like, okay, if you're going to do capital gains, you're trying to prove what the real profit is, but you're able to write off some stuff, right? Deductions, whether it's, hey, the closing costs when you purchased it. Did you do any home improvements? How do you actually factor quickly, or however, how do you factor what the true basis is for that capital gains?
Sure. So what James is talking about is kind of basis. That's what your cost. That's what your bottom line is for the cost of the property. And when we're coming up with gain, you take what you're selling the property for minus your basis. Now, for a lot of people, that's just what I bought the house for. But there's a lot of other things that you can add into that to make it so that your gain's smaller and your basis is higher. Now, we can go down a lot of different paths, as you mentioned, about this. And we will, in future episodes, talk about rental properties because you have depreciation. We'll talk about vacation homes because there's certain exclusions for that. But just for the average person that owns their home, basis basically is what they bought the property plus their closing costs and any major improvements to that property. That creates their basis. So back to our example of me buying a house for $200,000. If I also added a room to that house or replaced the roof at that house, I would be able to add that on top of the $200,000 to create a basis of, let's say, $250,000. Now, when I go to calculate my gain, if I'm selling the house for $300,000 and I have a basis of $250,000, that's the cost of $250,000 for that new roof in that room. Now I'm only paying on a gain of $50,000. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what basis is, but it gets very complicated very quickly, especially when you're dealing with rental properties.
What's the best way, BJ, for folks, if they have questions that they want to get to Cottrell Tax and Accounting, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Well, like James said, we are a sister company and we're in the same building. So by all means, you can call the title company, and if you have any questions, they can direct you over to me. But you can also call our direct line, which is 239-449-4881.
Perfect. BJ, thank you so much for sitting down here. I know that another one of the questions that we'll get to on a future episode, which maybe even next week if I can catch you in the halls, is there's obviously a lot of folks that this is second home, vacation home here in Naples, Florida. It's not their primary residence. And they really have questions pertaining to their tax situation. And I know we will address that on the Closing Experience Real Estate Talk over a cup of coffee. Tell you what, one of the great things about Cottrell Title and Escrow is the fact that we are able to, I can just reach my hand out my door, in my office door, and grab somebody like BJ Cottrell and say, hey, these are some of the questions I'm getting. I mean, the market in Southwest Florida wants to know about capital gains in this case. And again, there's a lot. There's rental income properties. There's foreign sellers. There's everybody wants to know tax-related stuff. And the fact that we have in one building not only tax professionals that specialize in real estate, but real estate attorneys as well as title and escrow, really makes us a great one-stop shop. So again, if you are a seller in Lee County or a buyer in Collier, you can choose to close with Cottrell. All you need to do is tell your real estate agent, I would like to close with Cottrell. Head over to fltitlegroup.com. You can click on the closing cost tab, register. It's free to register. And if you're a seller, you're probably wondering, how much money am I going to walk away with if I sell this property at this price? If you're a buyer, you're probably wondering, how much money do I need to bring to the table? Or what are some of these closing fees? You can do all of that at fltitlegroup.com. Click on the closings tab, register, and head in there, and you're able to work up every possible calculation you could figure out. Inevitably, you're going to have questions. Feel free to call 239-431-8200. And our team will make sure that we answer those questions for you. What are those lender fees? What do they mean? How do the tax prorations work? What about prepaid association dues? How do you get that money back? We will explain everything to you and make sure that you know the next step to take as you're moving on. As we go to break here, very excited to say that next segment we are sitting down with Heather Caine from Caine Premier Properties. She's doing some amazing things like, hey, being a top agent on HGTV's House Hunters. How does she do it? Stay tuned.
Grab your favorite mug and fill it up with your favorite blend because we're getting ready to sit down and talk about Southwest Florida real estate. Cottrell Title and Escrow presents The Closing Experience, real estate talk over a cup of coffee. What are my closing fees going to be? Should I rent or should I finally purchase? Why do I have to send all of these documents to get a mortgage? The real estate process doesn't have to be frustrating. Let our experts at Cottrell Title and Escrow help make buying or selling real estate a dream. Here to answer all of your questions, our host, managing partner of Cottrell Title and Escrow, James Schlemmer.
Welcome back to the Closing Experience Real Estate Talk over a cup of coffee. I mentioned going into the break that one of the things that we want to be able to offer on this show on a weekly basis to Southwest Florida agents is what's going on in the real estate industry. Where are the movers and the shakers, or the folks that are really changing the game of real estate? And with that, I'm so excited, and I kind of prefaced it last week that I'm at home. I'm watching HGTV and flip through the channels, and all of a sudden there's a local real estate agent from Naples, Florida. And I'm like, well, who is this person? And what are they doing on HGTV? And how do I not know who this is? So I was able to track down Heather Caine and say, hey, well, actually, I was able to research her for a little bit and find out what they're doing at Caine Premier Properties. I'm blown away. One, with the marketing, blown away with 18 agents in their brokerage here in Naples, Florida, as well as what they're doing in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. Had to reach out via Facebook and say, Heather Caine, I got to get you on the Closing Experience. Let's talk about what you're doing, and specifically Caine Premier Properties in Southwest Florida. And my understanding is you're only 4 years into Southwest Florida, right?
Well, I actually moved here 4 years ago, but I just launched a brokerage 2 years ago in Southwest Florida. But I've been in real estate for over 15 years with my brokerage in Dallas, Texas.
To put into perspective for some of our listeners right now, to say that you started the brokerage 2 years ago and have 18 amazing agents, because I've looked them up.
Yes.
How'd you do it?
You know, a lot of the agents that work with me have actually become very good close friends of mine since I moved here. I kind of sought out the people that really saw a vision for homes, because in real estate, you know, we live in the happiest, healthiest city in America.
Sure.
And to be here, you know, a lot of homes are outdated, but everyone here either wants new construction or they want move-in ready. So I had to create a team of people that had vision that could transform homes to make them look like new construction, or that they could sell for top dollar. So I sought out within those first 4 years the individuals that I would really want to join me.
Is there anybody in town that is essentially styling homes and what you call the Caine difference? And why don't you share with us what the Caine difference is, and then I'll ask the question.
So when you go to sell a home, it's not about, you know, just packing up your personal belongings. It's really about, you know, decluttering and pretty much creating a canvas that any buyer can see in a home. So whether it's transitional, whether it's modern, or whether it's contemporary, we really want to appeal to a broad range of buyers. So what our agents do is they go in and they help the seller really transform their home so that it can appeal to everybody. So it's a little bit of a different way. We say we like to style to sell for top dollar, just so that we can create the vision for all those buyers.
So when you go into and I just got to believe that you have to be gifted, that I definitely don't have this skill, by the way, for design or whatnot. So when you go into, let's say, a listing, or somebody says, hey, I think I want to sell my house, you immediately walk in there, and are you like the design whisperer, just saying, we got to do this, 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 this? Does it come to you that easy?
It does. You know, I've been given that gift, and I've had it really at a very young age. And a lot of my agents, I've taught them how to do it as well. I can walk into a space and I can see it done. It's kind of, and I just implement it. I mean, I know what it's going to take to make that home appeal to everybody. And a lot of times it's moving furniture out. And it's just rearranging what they have and making sure that the furniture flows, so that way we can open up the space so that it appeals to more people, and we maximize the potential of every single room.
I would imagine that quality or that attribute that you have is what was attractive for HGTV.
Yeah, it was actually really funny how HGTV kind of panned out. When I launched Caine, Florida, I really wanted to figure out how I could be different because we are in a very competitive industry here in Naples. Really stepped out of my comfort zone, and along with my contractor, because my husband and I are also real estate investors, so we flip homes. We actually say we don't flip homes, we transform them, because flipping I feel like is like putting lipstick on a pig, you know, just slapping some paint on the walls. We actually redo floor plans. We like make sure that the space really fits for what the homes potentially be. So my contractor and I, we were brainstorming one day, she's actually a licensed realtor as well, and she's an agent of mine. And we said, how can we create a buzz of what we do and what makes us different? So she and I created what they call as a sizzle reel of what we do. And we blindly sent it to HGTV. Like just sent an email to them and this funny little video that we did on our cell phones. And we got a call within 3 hours.
What?
We did. And when we got the phone call, it was actually from House Hunters, which is through Pytown Productions.
Yep.
So Pytown Production is a production company that does that for them, who also is the production company for Flip or Flop. And I remember Diana called me and she said, Heather, we love your video, but just so you know, we just don't give people a show. She goes, but do you have a buyer that you would like to feature on House Hunters, and let's see how we work together? And I said, absolutely, let's do it. And so at that time, it was I had a friend of ours that was relocating from Dallas, Texas to Naples. So my brokerage in Dallas helped sell their home there, and I was relocating and helping them buy here in Naples. So that was our first family. And we're actually filming our 5th episode with Pytown now. They'll be back in 2 weeks to film another episode. So we've done 5 now in 1 year.
I tell you what, if you're listening to us today on the Closing Experience Real Estate Talk over a cup of coffee, I'm sitting with Heather Caine from Caine Premier Properties. This is one of the top agents in Southwest Florida who, over the last 4 years, has grown a brokerage with 18 talented agents, as well as taking over, I would say, just the real estate world when it comes to landing on HGTV. We can see you on Fox for Homes by Heather. And I said this before we started recording. I was like, where did you come from? Because I've been in this market for a while and I feel like I know everybody. And all of a sudden, Heather Caine comes out of nowhere and on such a great platform.
Thank you.
HGTV, one of the big shows there is Fixer Upper. Mm-hmm. But we know that they're not coming back.
They're not.
So there's an opportunity for a void to get filled. And a lot of the questions coming in saying, hey, do you have your eye on that spot?
I do.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can't go into details just because, there's contract involved.
This is late breaking news on the Closing Experience.
No, I can't say any details, but there's stuff in the works. Yeah. I mean, we're really building our platform right now with HGTV. And the contractor that I work with, Katie, is a female contractor, and she and I together are a pretty amazing duo.
Okay.
So we have some girl power going on in that aspect.
That's great. Mm-hmm. And now your local contractor, the company is what?
We're Check Development.
Check Development.
We're
okay.
Check. Mm-hmm.
So somebody's going to call you to schedule a listing appointment, right? Hey, I want to do business with Heather Caine.
Correct.
And they're going to dial what number?
They're going to dial 239-221-0771.
Okay, or they can email Heather at CainePremierProperties.com.
Correct.
Okay, and your website is CainePremierProperties.com.
Yes.
Right? So we got to give a plug to make sure they know how to find it.
Thank you.
So you'll come out there, and is it always a remodel type situation, or
No.
is that only in certain situations?
No, absolutely not. I mean, sometimes the home just needs to be styled. So I use their existing furniture. So the first thing I do is I have the seller show me their home.
Okay.
Because I want them to show me what they love about the home. Because I obviously want to showcase the things that, they feel after living in the home are the most important aspects of it. So they show me their home. And then once we're finished, I always say, there's a difference between selling your home, between living in your home and selling in your home. I'm going to show you now what it's going to take to make sure I can sell your home for top dollar. So I kind of take them through the rooms and I show them what we would remove, what we might replace, what we might add, where we might relocate. And for them, it's almost like a sigh of relief because I've taken that burden off of their shoulders. They're like, okay, so you're going to take charge and tell me what I need to get rid of and what I need to keep and where I need to move and what I need to get. And I said, absolutely. And so we do have a program where we actually go in and we purchase everything that needs to be done for the home and we put it in the listing agreement. So it's a reimbursable expense, but it's something that they can keep. And I always say, we're going to make your house gorgeous. And the biggest thing is once we make it gorgeous, they're like, do I even want to sell my home? But I'll take everything that I did to make their home gorgeous and I'm going to help them in their new home. So style their new home as well.
I figure that's got to be the worst part for some of the sellers because now they see their home in a way that they've never seen before.
Yes.
And they're like, I don't think I want to move anymore, right?
Correct.
It looks that good.
It does.
Is there a a specialty that you like to work with, whether it's single family homes or do you like the penthouse condos? Because I'm sure there's folks that are probably wondering like, hey, I think I'm getting ready to sell and this does sound intriguing.
Absolutely. You know, the great thing about my brokerage is we can actually help everyone because we have 18 agents. We're able to diversify into everything from single family to condos to, you know, even townhomes, whether you want a golf course community or beachfront living. I mean, we really have agents that specialize in everything.
So here's the beauty. We sat down with Heather Caine from Caine Premier Properties. We had her live on the Closing Experience Real Estate Talk over a cup of coffee. We're talking about an agent that it's so incredibly hard to grow your brokerage in 4 years' time in Southwest Florida, highly competitive market. But on top of that, market yourself to land a gig on HGTV and be one of the top agents recognized in the country. And Heather Caine is doing that. So one, I'm so grateful that you took the time to come.
Thank you.
And I would like to just point out that if folks want to get in touch with Heather Caine, they can go to CainePremierProperties.com. They can email Heather at CainePremierProperties.com and give them the phone number one more time.
It's 239-221-0771.
That's perfect. We wish you the best of luck. And
thank you.
And hopefully we get a chance to see you on a solid, steady gig taking over that fixer-upper spot.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
One of the things that I'm so happy here with just being able to sit down and talk to Heather here and be able to get her on the Closing Experience Real Estate Talk over a cup of coffee. This is exactly why I wanted to do this show. Hey, there's an agent out there that's just doing amazing things, thinking outside the box. I want them on the show and at least be able to let Southwest Florida know that what they're doing, how they're doing it, and it's great information for us. So listen, as we go into the next segment, I want to be able to stay tuned because I want to share with you a tip I learned from the FBI that can prevent you from wiring your life savings into the wrong account. So please stay tuned for that. That's huge. And again, if you are a seller in Lee County or a buyer in Collier County, you can choose to close with Cottrell. All you need to do is let your real estate agent know, I want to close with Cottrell. I want to give these guys a shot, Cottrell Title and Escrow. They say they can do great things, and we can. Head over to fltitlegroup.com. Click on the Closing Cost tab. If you are a seller, you're probably wondering, hey, how much money am I going to walk away with if we sell this property at this price? Head over to fltitlegroup.com, click on Closing Costs, register. It's free to register. And you're able to work up every possible calculation you could imagine. Also, too, you'll see the closing costs associated with the transaction. You'll probably have questions. Dial 431-8200, and you're able to ask us those questions. We'll be happy to explain what those closing costs are for you. If you're a buyer in Collier County, probably wondering, how much money do I need to bring to the table to be able to buy this place? Again, head over to fltitlegroup.com, click on the Closing Costs tab, and you can actually plug in every calculation and get a feel for how much money you need to have to be able to close on this home that maybe you're thinking about buying. Coming up after the break, again, I'm going to share a tip with you on how to prevent you from wiring your funds to the wrong account.
Are you getting ready to buy or sell real estate and have questions about the process? Or do you just simply want to know what the costs are going to be? Join us here Saturday mornings at 7:30 as Cottrell Title and Escrow presents The Closing Experience, Real Estate Talk over a cup of coffee, a weekly show dedicated to talking Southwest Florida real estate. Can't wait until Saturday? Call Cottrell Title and Escrow now at 239-431-8200 or visit fltitlegroup.com.
Welcome back to The Closing Experience, Real Estate Talk over a cup of coffee. I'm your host, managing partner of Cottrell Title and Escrow, James Schlimmer. What a show we've had so far today. Again, being able to sit down with BJ Cottrell, talk taxes, being able to talk about the amazing things Heather Caine is doing at Caine Premier Properties, specifically HGTV, wishing her nothing but the best. As we went into the break, I kind of mentioned I want to share a tip that the FBI shared with us that can prevent you from wiring your funds to a hacker into the wrong account, which I'm sure you can imagine. Can't get the money back, and it's a huge scam that is going on right now in the real estate industry. And I make a point to bring it up on every single show because it's so important. If you are a buyer or you're currently under contract to purchase real estate anywhere in the country, you want to pay attention to what I'm saying here. What's happening is you're getting wiring instructions, or I should say the buyer who has a deposit to make, whether it's an initial deposit or an additional deposit or your closing day funds. You're getting an email from your real estate agent that says, hey, see below from the title company, you need to wire X amount of money and attach to the closing or the wire instructions. If this happens to you, you need to delete the email, and here's why. Real estate agents' emails are being monitored, and unfortunately in 2018 you have to assume that every single one of their emails is being monitored. And I would say, I don't care what security that they say that they have, assume that their email is being monitored. And what these hackers are doing is they're sitting there watching, and they understand the real estate transaction. And they understand the lingo, the terminology that the closing company will use when we speak to the real estate agent, or if that agent is speaking to a lender, they understand the transaction. And what they're doing is they're just waiting, almost like a snake in the grass. And what they can see is that the closing company sends the real estate agent the settlement statement to review prior to closing. What they'll do is they will change our wire instructions, change the account number, change the routing number, change the account name. What they'll do is they will send an email to you, the buyer. It looks like it comes from the real estate agent that says, hey, see below from the title company, this is how much you need to wire, and these are the closing instructions, and they changed them. This is happening where people are now just taking those printed fraudulent wire instructions and going right to the bank and wiring that money blindly almost. If it sounds crazy that somebody would do that, it should, but they do. And they'll just take them right down there, and folks are wiring hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of dollars, into the wrong account. So how do you prevent it? Here's what you do. Again, if you are a buyer and you're getting ready to send an initial deposit or an additional deposit or your closing day funds, if you get an email from your real estate agent with wire instructions, period. If there are wiring instructions emailed to you from your real estate agent, delete it. You call up your real estate agent and you say, hey, can you put me in touch with the closing company, please? If you were closing with Cottrell Title and Escrow, you would know that you're working with Max Hepburn or Diana Hogue or Kelly Porter or any one of our team, because we communicate with you throughout the whole transaction. We would actually, and we tell agents, we will not send the wire instructions to agents anymore. We will get them to you directly. We ask for you to call up the closing company on the phone, and you will verbally verify those wire instructions over the phone. So you're going to verify the account name, you're going to verify the account number and the routing number. That tip right there will prevent you from wiring your life savings into the wrong account. And it is a little bit of a pain that in 2018 we have to stop and kind of do this old school step, but it is so important right now, because our biggest fear is that, God forbid, somebody's funds get sent to the wrong account because they're not following these instructions. And it's something that is happening all across the country, and there's nothing more serious to us at Cottrell Title and Escrow than the safety of your funds. That's our number one priority, and that's why you entrust us, and that's why buyers and sellers all across the state of Florida are using Cottrell Title and Escrow. So please listen to this tip, and hopefully that will help. As we kind of wrap up this show, I want to share with you guys a story. And it's about a couple that from Minnesota. A couple years ago, they come into our office, and they're buying a lot in Golden Gate Estates. Actually, not even a lot. It's a home. It's a $275,000 home in Golden Gate Estates. And this story, I love this story, and it reminds us of what we do every day here at Cottrell Title and Escrow, and how serious we take our job and our duty really to buyers and sellers throughout Southwest Florida. But this couple, they come in and they get under contract for this lot. And one of the first things we'll usually do on every transaction is we create what we call a preliminary closing settlement statement. And all that is a kind of an idea of, based on the numbers that are on the sales contract, this is what the closing costs will be on the transaction. So if you're a seller and you're wondering how much will I walk away with, it's on that piece of paper. If you are a buyer and you need to know how much money you want to bring to the closing table, it's on that piece of paper. But again, it's all we know based on the sales contract. So there are still some things that may change, especially if it's the buyer is getting a loan. There's numbers that we just don't know yet. We just got the contract. We plug it into our system, and probably in 30 minutes, we have this settlement statement, that preliminary settlement statement that we will send out to all parties. We did that to this couple, and he actually, they were boyfriend, girlfriend. They were together. They've been together for 40 years, so they're life partners from Minnesota. And he comes in the office, and we have seller information sheets and buyer information worksheets that we need folks to fill out that give us information that we use to be able to create closing documents, which we can get into on another show. So they come in and they're holding the preliminary closing settlement statement, and the guy also has to give his deposit. And his deposit was maybe $5,000 or so. And I can see on his face that as he's writing the check, he's extremely nervous. And I said, hey, well, are you okay? Do you want to sit down and talk? And he's like, please, will somebody sit down and tell me what's going on in this transaction? And I bring this up actually many times on the show because there is such a lack of education on the home buying process. And it's in all age groups. You could be 75 years old, 40 years old. You could be 18 years old. It's just not something that's taught. And what happens is when you take out your checkbook and you're writing that initial check for $5,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 or whatever it may be, that moment right there is when everything becomes real, because everybody understands what it's like to take $5,000 out of their account. Now you're handing it over to somebody you don't know in a process that you're not familiar with, and it's stressful. It's nerve-wracking. And at Cottrell Title and Escrow, we take that extremely serious because we want you to be comfortable. Real estate is an investment, so you need to have a clear mind. You need to be able to make good decisions. And I digressed for a second there. But anyways, so he writes a check, and I was like, hey, would you like to sit down and talk? He's like, please. So I was like, well, let me explain the process to you. This is what's going on here. Right now, we've ordered title. That'll come back probably tomorrow, and we're gonna review the title search and be able to see what we need to do to be able to make sure that you acquire clear title. And would you like to go through the fees? And he's like, yep. So we start at the top and we go down line by line and explaining the taxes and all the above. And we probably spent 20 minutes going over every single cent and where it was going, and also trying to make sure that he understood that, hey, this is still preliminary, so there could be some changes, and then having him understand what those changes could be and why. Now, he kind of stops me there towards the end. He's like, well, listen, he's like, I hope you understand that, we appreciate your time, but he's like, my girlfriend and I, we have worked our whole entire lives to be able to purchase this property in Southwest Florida. And, and I'm sitting there and I'm just kind of silent looking at him, because that's a pretty powerful statement that somebody makes in my office. These guys, they're in their 60s. He had a blue collar job. She was a teacher. And the fact that he says we worked our entire professional lives just to be able to move and get out of the cold of Minneapolis and get to sunny Southwest Florida. He even alluded to, he's like, I'm sure this $275,000 deal, it's not that much compared to what you see. And that doesn't matter to us at all. It just put into perspective, at Cottrell Title and Escrow, there are folks that are, saving every single penny they have right now for 10 years from now. And we want to be their closing company 10 years from now, to make sure that, hey, when they're going to live that dream that they have been saving for and clawing for the last 20 years, 30 years, in this case it was 40 years, these folks have saved their money to be able to move to Southwest Florida. We take that serious. And my whole team here takes that serious, from the person that when you walk through the doors to the folks that are signing the closing documents at the end. So with that, I love that story because it kind of shows who we are as a company and how serious we take the real estate transaction, and how we want to give buyers and sellers the best possible closing experience available. Now with that, if you are a seller in Lee County or a buyer in Collier County, you can choose to close with Cottrell. All you need to do is let your real estate agent know that I want to close with Cottrell Title and Escrow. If you're interested in knowing what your potential closing costs may be, before you're under contract, if you're a seller, you're probably wondering, how much money am I going to walk away with? If you're a buyer, how much money do I need to have in order to be able to close? Go to fltitlegroup.com, click on the closing costs tab, register, it's free, and plug away at your numbers. I would imagine you have questions, so feel free to dial 239-431-8200. Our team here will make sure we explain everything to you, just like we did for that couple in Minneapolis. Again, thank you so much for listening this week. The Closing Experience, real estate talk over a cup of coffee. It's always fun. I'm looking forward to next week. Feel free, please, to head over to iTunes. You can go to Spotify, do a search for The Closing Experience. Every week, we are sitting down with real estate leaders and executives throughout the country and talking all things real estate. So if you're kind of a real estate nerd like I am, we have some great content up there right now available. You can find us at Facebook at The Closing Experience. You can go to Twitter at Cottrell Title. And again, 239-431-8200. Have a great week. Looking forward to being with you guys next week. Thanks so much.